Welcome back to the Restore After Wellness Brownsboro podcast. Quick little disclaimer: this isn't corporate. This is just me, so my buddy Ruben, talking about stuff we like doing. Actually, the reason we're here is that he does restore services. What do you do?
Yeah, so far I've taken advantage of both the cryo, red light, um, the IV therapy, the intramuscular for some B12, some energy, and then also I think that's it so far.
That's it. Now, what led you to why restore, or like not even like why restore? Why these modalities, anyways?
Yeah, so I just turned 33 on the 11th,
Mm,
and I told myself this year I'm going to take recovery more seriously
hmm
as an athlete. It's something that before Restore, I've done cryo, I think 4 or 5 times now in the last 3 weeks. And before that, I did cryo like twice in my entire life.
mm,
So I was like, I'm going to take this more seriously.
mm. Now, why is recovery? So people don't know you're world class when it comes to something kickboxing. There's a word
Yep.
before it.
Sport karate and also kickboxing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Sport karate and kickboxing. What do you about these services do you think helps you in that field?
The inflammation that I experience after I get like over 20 rounds of sparring in a week.
Mm,
And that's just punching and kicking and knees and elbows. Not so much elbows in sparring, but then I also wrestle probably somewhere between like 10 and 15 rounds a week as well. Those are
mm,
5 minute rounds on top of just all the other workouts that you do as an athlete. And the inflammation that just you kind of live with from getting punched and kicked on the regular. And even if you're not sparring, just hitting pads, hitting the bag, little tweaks here and there. It it's super important to just reduce the inflammation.
and what is so you say inflammation, it's like a hot word everyone likes to use. For you, what does that feel like? Like what does it feel like when you are living with all of that and not doing those
That
services?
feels like a constant fluid buildup in like a knee
Mm,
or in an ankle, sometimes in the wrist. Just a constant feeling of not being as mobile, not
mhm.
be and stiff all the time.
It's like a little pain in your side the whole time.
Yeah,
It's like, leave me alone, man.
even if it's not pain, sometimes it's just an awkward. Just like, I've got to. Why is it that I'm limping when I'm walking, and
Yeah.
I can feel this like weird fluid buildup in my knee,
Mhm.
but then when I start wrestling, it all goes away. When I'm kicking, it all goes away. But then when I'm just walking, I'm experiencing it.
That's how it always is. Like every time I'm in the gym, because I compete in strongman and it's so pretty intense on the body. But like I never hurt myself working out. It's always like I slept weird, or like why does standing up from sitting down too long hurt my knees? Like it's the most random thing ever.
Dude, I was on the elliptical a couple weeks ago for did a half hour, just real light elliptical work, and I got off, and for some reason, I didn't hurt myself during my elliptical session, and I just felt this like fluid buildup, and I was like, "What in the world? Why is it always when I'm like standing somewhere for a
Yep.
prolonged period of time or doing some sort of cycling exercise, I get this like buildup?"
It's a funny thing is like people talk about what's the most dangerous thing a plane can do, and it's sit on the ground.
Wow.
That and I was like, okay, because I talked to like airplane mechanics, stuff like that, and like that's the worst thing you can do for a plane is not have
Mhm.
it be flying. So I feel like for people, we have a pretty sedentary lifestyle nowadays. The worst thing we can do is nothing. And recovery is really important,
Mm.
and working out's important, but just moving. Like, and the longer we're static, I feel like the longer we just end up hurting ourselves, either
Yeah.
on purpose or an accident or just doing something silly. But if you're mobile, then that kind of fixes a lot of the issues.
Yeah. 100%.
That's where I feel
Totally.
it. Now, before we got on, we were talking about not Logan Paul, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, because
Yeah.
I never watched a fight in my life. Didn't really care. But that one interests me because Mike Tyson's just funny. There's a lot of memes on the internet, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then Logan Paul's crazy, and I'm like, Jake Paul, who the hell's this young guy, and all this stuff. You shared some interesting thoughts on it. So what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and after that, before I share my thoughts, I want to touch on how you said you don't really watch fighting, but you tune into that.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like overnight security, and when I was working that night, when I walked in, the fight started around midnight, if you remember, and when I walked into work, everybody, everybody walking into work, and also everybody who I worked with all had their phones out watching this fight. And this is something like as a someone who's been watching boxing since I was just a little kid, and actually like am in the sport. nobody is ever like that.
Mm.
So the eyes on this fight were huge. And as far as my thoughts go on the fight, I was telling everyone that with all the respect in the world to Mike Tyson, he has no chance. Power being the last thing to leave somebody. Jake Jake Paul, we we can no longer look at Jake Paul as a influencer boxer. He's a real boxer. Um, Jake Paul has hundreds of millions of dollars. He's got his own training facility. He's paying world class boxing trainers. And all he does for 4 to 8 hours a day is box. And on top of just boxing training, look at to speak to like what Restore does, look at what he's doing for recovery. He does the ice baths and he does the red light and he does the hyperbaric chambers. He does all those things. And these are all things that fighters would do if they had the financial, if they had the resource to do it. So he's not only taking the training aspect seriously, he's taking the recovery seriously. And we've watched him fight, or at least I've watched him fight some
Yep.
world-class strikers, maybe not boxers. And that's a conversation I like to get in. I don't want to get into a different conversation before we have it, but boxing striking and mixed martial arts striking are different, completely different. But he's fought some world-class mixed martial artists and beat them. And these are guys who might not be technical boxers, but they can fight and they can strike, and he's beat them.
Mhm.
And it's far past the point. Everybody was, oh, but Mike Tyson this. And I'm like, guys, this is Mike Tyson who retired back in the early 2000s that you're imagining in your head. I was referencing like the Mike Tyson Roy Jones exhibition fight that was like
Mhm.
4 or 5 years ago. And he looked horrible with, like, again, all the respect in the world to him. I was like, there's no way he's going to get over on this young kid who's hungry and not afraid to knock him out if he gets a chance to.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Now, is there anything? Because I felt like I was watching the fight. I felt like they were kind of pulling their punches a lot. Like I didn't feel like they were fighting, because when I saw the girls fight, I was like, that's a fight.
Mm.
Like her eyelid is falling off and she's still going. And I remember that feeling of like watching that. I'm like, her eyelid, you need to stop. I was like, dude, this is terrible. Just stop. I mean, I think you lost. She kept going, which is, I just thought it interesting because I never saw girls fight like that.
Mm.
And it was more intense than most of the guys' fights. So do you feel like they were pulling their punches a little bit?
Yeah, no, I actually didn't feel that way. I felt like what we saw was someone, because to the respect that I want to say, Jake Paul is a real boxer.
Mhm.
He's really like a lower level professional boxer.
Mhm.
And I would say that what we saw was a lower level professional boxer just because he doesn't have the ring experience yet.
Mhm.
He trains like a world class fighter, but there's an experience piece to that that I can speak to pretty in depth about, versus a far long retired boxer.
Mhm.
I think that's what we witnessed, and because of that, it could look like they were pulling punches. I don't think Jake tried to carry Mike through the fight, and I don't think Mike didn't try to knock Jake out during the fight. I think we just watched someone who was far too old, and what an honor to be able to see Mike step back in the ring again
Mhm.
and defy all these things, the earlier, injury or sickness, illness he had in the summer. You know, I'm all about when I see like videos of like
Mhm.
old Muay Thai guys fighting each other, I'm like, good on them, because you got someone at home eating Cheetos talking about, oh, you're too old for this or that. And it's like, man, look at you. You're like 100 pounds overweight eating Cheetos on the couch. How are you going to judge like some 60-year-old who wants to like, get it popping in the ring?
Mhm.
So good on him for that. But honestly, man, we just saw Father Time is undefeated in combat sports, in most sports, but especially combat sports, versus someone who's just like figuring things out right now in the ring.
Yeah. Do you think prime Mike Tyson would have won?
Prime Mike Tyson kills Jake Paul in under a minute.
Mm.
Kills Jake Paul in under a minute. And Jake Paul knows that. And Jake Paul is to the influencer part of him,
Mhm.
he knows how to go viral. He knows how to get eyes, talking all that shit about, oh, I would have beat Mike Tyson, and he knows better.
Mhm.
He wouldn't have been barking up Mike Tyson's tree, for the same reason he's not calling out any world class professional boxers in his real weight class now.
Mhm.
No, prime Mike Tyson kills Jake Paul in under a minute.
Okay. I was curious about that because I haven't talked to anyone who's like an actual fighter perspective. I
Mm,
was just all like people I knew.
sure.
And, I think it's the same way of like, I could talk on a strongman competition all day. I can't talk anything about any other sports. Baseball, football.
Dude, that's so fair. Like, I feel so disconnected from the world all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to. I grew up playing baseball. I love baseball. I'm a diehard Chicago Cubs fan. I also love the Minnesota Vikings. It's fun to watch them have like a cool season. I was kind of locked into them a little bit this
Mhm.
season, but not really. Um, People, they can talk about all the college sports, this and professionals, and I'm like, I have absolutely no idea what's going on outside of fighting.
Yeah.
And even in fighting, a lot of times I'm like, I don't know. I'm so focused on like my career.
Yep.
I'm just locked in what I'm doing. Yeah, so I get that.
Well, because I feel like it's a lot of the and something I never said about sports is that everyone always watches someone else do the thing. And I'm like, don't you want to do it? Like, don't you want to do it? Or like try? And most people have never tried. Or it's like, I feel like they feel like they're living vicariously through someone else all the time and they get so into it. And I'm like, why don't you trust me. And when it's like competing. Like when you compete, and a lot of people know like that feeling of like you're bleeding, like you are on the verge of like passing out. And that's a fun feeling. Unlike everything's on the line right now. So when you get that versus someone who's like never gone through it, A, it just feels like a different animal. Most people just can't relate to it. And B, it's such a head high. They're like, I know that you feel good right now watching this. Like it's a fun sport. If you tried competing, like if you tried like putting everything out there, you would love it so much more.
Oh, 100%. A lot of people, man, they're just afraid of the reality check. They're afraid to, why didn't you take that shot? Oh my goodness, he's open. Look at they have no idea what it's like to have 1,000 people or more on looking, while you're trying to make the most like intense, thing happen ever.
Yeah.
They have no idea what that's. They have no idea what I have a thing in the gym, and you know this from strongman. What's your best PR on like a deadlift?
750.
Which is incredible. Like I couldn't even put half that up on a deadlift. And how many times can you do that for?
Right now, one.
One, right? You couldn't do it twice, right? Or 3 times, even probably at your best, maybe.
No.
Right.
I would break.
Because you get fatigued, right? We have this thing in combat sports that we say fatigue makes boys and girls out of men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is afraid to be tired. Mm-hmm. Being tired in front of your friends and family, it's the I don't know what it is. I actually have really, really good conditioning, contrary to being kind of like a fat body. Like I have really, really good conditioning. And I don't know if my coaches in the past have said it's probably kind of genetic, being Hispanic. We have like naturally a little bit better like long distance conditioning through like just generations of, long running, which I can make several jokes about. But when it comes to that, like even when I was in the military, when I do like my Army 2 miles, I would always sub 12 minutes. My fastest actually in basic training was an 11:23 2 mile, which is moving.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently in December did a 1.5 mile run, timed, and I did it in 9:41, which is still moving pretty good.
Yep.
And it was cold as shit out. But so I moved pretty good. But and every time I'd run with a company of 150 soldiers, I'd always finish first and sometimes second, but most of the time first. And for whatever reason, every time I'm on the line getting ready for, them to say go, I have this weird feeling that at half mile in, I'm going to be gassed and tanked. Just this weird feeling. I train hours and hours and hours a day for 9 to 15-minute competition. And the biggest fear that myself and any other combat sports athletes has is, oh my God, I'm going to gas out in the first round. I'm going to gas out in the first round. Just this weird feeling of like getting fatigued. And man, to kind of circle back, so many people that the reason they don't try these things is because they're legitimately afraid of being tired and tired in front of their friends and family. And the moment they try to do this sport that they're so judgmental on professionals about, the moment they show how much they actually suck at these things, they can no longer talk about, oh, why isn't he doing this? Just stand up. Just
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I think the reason they don't like go after these things for. It's a big fear piece.
Yeah, it makes sense. And there's a lot of like, and there's so much strategy because people don't realize that there's all the like brute force and like you have like the masculine, like, yeah, we're beating the shit out of each other. Like we're doing that. And then there's also the like, I'm not sure, is it point? Is there points in your sports?
No, not in any of the divisions that I compete in.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yours is like he's past
It's
that.
like most fights are judged on a 9-10, like, so basically what that is if you have 3 rounds,
Okay.
whoever wins round 1, they'll give them a 10 and they'll give the other person a 9.
Mm.
So you have your winner and your loser. And some points, if it's a dominant round, the other person might get an 8 and you get a 10. The goal is still to like put your person out. That's finish the fight.
Mhm.
But in the case that you don't put each other out in round 1, round 2, or round 3, you have the scoring system either 10-9.
And how long are the rounds?
When I do sport karate, they're a minute and a half. When I do kickboxing, they're 3 minutes. When I do mixed martial arts, they're 5 minutes. So it's pretty vast, and I compete across all 3
And people
sports.
don't like, another thing too, like people that disconnect between like watching something and doing it. Like going all out, even a minute and a half is hard.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like in strongman, we'll have events where it's like max carry for distance. You have whatever weight you have on your back arms, whatever, and you got to run with it. You're 35 seconds in, and you're on the verge of like throwing up, passing out, and you're like, it's just 30 seconds. I'm like, I think you realize how these 30 seconds are, man. This is a rough 30 seconds.
That's 3 minutes in regular life.
Yeah. You're like, you could have gone to the grocery store and like came back with milk.
Oh my
by now.
God. A minute and a half or 30 seconds feels like forever. Feels like a
Forever.
lifetime. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're tired.
Especially if you're tired.
Yeah.
So, and circling back to everything we're talking about, like the reason I was a member at Restore even before I started working there. So I tell all the customers, I'm like, trust me, I've probably spent more on you here than you have. Like I am bought into this stuff because I mean, I do it all the time. I'm an athlete, like, and I'm looking for that top 0.1%. And all of the top like 0.1%, like the Jake Pauls and people can afford it, they do all the stuff. I don't think they do it if they didn't do anything because they probably have too many smart people around them being like, you're wasting your money doing this. So it's nice to know that it works and it's cool to see other world class people doing stuff like that. It's kind of affirming in a sense. Like, okay, I'm not totally crazy. Because most time people think we're crazy if you tell them all the recovery stuff you do. And you're like, you do what? Like, you choose to go in a cryo chamber? I'm like, trust me, it's better than you think.
Well, for me, it's if I not only do I know, because I do feel I do feel a lot of the benefits. It's sometimes difficult for me, like doing cryo, for example. One of the first benefits I heard is that I was going to have a much easier time sleeping.
Mhm.
Well, in the last 3 weeks I've done that, I really haven't been able to feel that until yesterday. And the reason is because most nights, about 5 nights a week, I do overnight security on top of my day job, right, and training. So I don't really get to sleep a lot. I sleep max 4 hours a day, and that's usually split up in increments of like 2 hours and 2 hours. Usually I'll sleep for 2 hours, go to work for like 4 hours, come home, sleep for another 2 hours, and then start my day. And I might catch like a 20 to 30-minute cat nap in the day, maybe, if I'm lucky. But I'm pretty busy most of the days. And, I don't feel like a hero for that. It's just what life is. So, because of that, last night, I finally, I pick up my daughter, have her with me, and, I got to just sleep in. And last night I slept great, and I did cryo yesterday. And I made it a point, hey, I'm going to work out. I did my run, and then I was like, right after this run, I'm going to, go get my cryo in real quick. And before I head down, and then I did jujitsu for 45 minutes last night too, out in Corbin, and then came back up here. But it's a 2.5-hour drive for me there and back. So I was like, I'm going to get 2 workouts in and I'm going to get cryo in. And last night I slept great. So I actually did feel the benefits of that last night.
There you go. Well, it's hard too because nothing can outrun bad sleep hygiene. Nothing can outrun bad diet, like all the things. Like you got your lifestyle habits, and this stuff is the like, it's the 20% you need, or it's that little extra bit that like is a cherry on top. But like I said, if you're only sleeping 4 hours, it's pretty hard to feel much because your body's just trying to survive right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's, you know, life presents its circumstances, and like you just deal with them.
Hmm.
You just deal with them, and you don't complain about them, and that's what I definitely do. But there's no doubt that as a professional athlete, as someone who competes very often, that I should sleep a lot more than I do. But like I said, one day I'll be at a place where I do. Right
Hmm.
now, it's just not. That's not the cards
You have
that are
different
dealt.
seasons.
That's it. That's it. But it's either way. One thing's for sure that I can speak immediately that I felt. I did IV therapy earlier
Mm.
this week, and I got the L-carnitine and the B12 complexes,
Hmm.
and I did feel really really great. Actually, on Tuesday night doing security, I was probably the first night in months that I didn't take an energy drink
Mm.
all night, and I felt great all the way through. So I will say, and I felt great on Wednesday as well. Um, but I will say that was one that was fun, and it was nice and chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, had a great conversation with a couple people in there, and just hung out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, IVs are one of the things that I probably spent. It took me the longest to get into IVs because I just did the like red, white, cryo and shots. Like that was my only thing I did for probably like a year there. And then once I started working there, like, oh, I can do IVs. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And then I finally got around to it, and I was like, okay, this is pretty great because I can get a lot more ingredients in without having to be stuck like 25 times.
Yeah.
Because I come in and get like 3 shots a day, and I'm like, my ass is hurting right now. Like,
Yeah.
ow. But now I'm over that. I do the IV drips. I can put everything in. Surprisingly enough, the whole staff right now is like on a vitamin C kick.
Nice.
Like a high dose vitamin C, like 10, 20, 30 grams. Um, I did not expect that to be an energy booster, but I was off my rocker after that drug.
Really?
Yeah. Because I think there's some science behind like immune function. And I guess if your immune system's running at 100% and you're not constantly fighting something, because most time people don't realize your body's constantly fighting something.
That's fair.
There is something happening. But actually being at 100%, like I went to the gym afterward and was repping the like 105 dumbbells and shoulder press. And I was, and I like I couldn't even get them up last week. So I was like, well, this works pretty dang good.
I might have to do that on my next IV.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, Holly, the manager, did it. Hannah's about to do it tomorrow. I did it. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sold on this. Because I can already tell how good a drip is by how good my workout is afterward. Because I'll get my drips before my workouts or sometimes after, but normally before. So I can kind of do it, especially competing. Like if you do a drip before your competition and then after, you don't get that like post competition, like I kind of want to roll over and die feeling.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you definitely get that. Especially exerting that hard the next day. You're just like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
You're pretty burnt. So that's what I found works really well for me. So for you, what does like success look like in this field? Like what's the goal?
It's always changing. I think when it comes to what does Tom Brady said it the best. And they asked him, what's your favorite ring? And he said the next one. I'm pretty sure that was him that said that. That's kind of how it feels right now. When I was real young, I set out to be a world champion in some sort of combat sports. And I've done that 3 times now. And every time it's sweeter than the first time. But, when I was real young, when I was in my early 20s, I said, I'm going to be a UFC champion. That is not in the cards for me. There are other organizations that, and quite frankly, that's just because the UFC is not looking for 33-year-olds to join their organization. They're looking for people who maybe aren't even as skilled or just as skilled, but are 5 to 10 years younger than where I'm at. It's just what it is. I've had things that set me back throughout my career. I served in the military for a long time, deployments, being gone, those things, set me back from progressing in my sport. But I technically have accomplished what my initial goal was. And I think success now is just using the, minimal platform I've built to be inspiration to others. I've been north of 250 pounds twice in my life. And
how'd it feel?
Horrible.
Yeah, being too horrible. Especially like because you're a little,
I'm like 5'6". Yeah, I'm a little short shit.
And I've been 250, and 250 on me was,
yeah, it was horrible. I like
big.
Yeah, looked like El Chapo, bro. Like just horrible. And actually I watched in 2022, I had got real heavy, and man, I was going through it all. I was fighting for custody of my daughter. I was going through it, man. And I put my career on the back burner, and yeah, I deal with like soreness and stiffness and things of that sort, in combat sports. So bloody nose every once in a while,
Hmm.
but nothing, nothing felt worse than like nothing felt worse than being out of shape. And I remember there were actually two very significant things that like pushed me back into getting into like good shape again.
Mm.
Uh, but before I talk about those things, I watched this video or this YouTube series called From Fit to Fat to Fit.
Yeah.
And you've seen that?
Yeah, it's a TV show where
Yeah.
the coaches get
Get fat for a few months
with their client to figure out what it's
because
exactly.
so many fitness trainers think they have the answer for people to, and they do, but in all fairness, they don't know what it's like to be. A lot of people just have naturally good metabolisms, and they are struggling to put on weight.
Mhm.
That's no problem for me. If I wanted to be 20 pounds heavier by next weekend, I could do it
Mhm.
with no problem. And shit, I could probably do it in less than before the end of the weekend.
Mm.
And that's a sad thing. But so I found that really interesting. There's this one trainer in specific. I was dealing with this weird upper back pain, and I had just came back from I deployed to the Horn of Africa for a year, and I came back at summer or late spring 2021, and I was in great shape, walking around like 165, 170 pounds, just in great shape, pretty lean. I'm never ever lean where I have like a walking
Yep.
six pack,
Yep.
but I was pretty lean, about 25 pounds less than what I am right now, and um and before in 10 months I'd put on 100 pounds
Mm.
just to it was horrible the way I just let myself go. And I was dealing with this upper back pain that I just couldn't, it made it hard to breathe. My chest was tight all the time. And this trainer from that show was talking about how he had this weird pain in his back. And I remember I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and I was working from home. And this is playing in the background, I just stopped and I was like, that's the pain. He described it. I was like, that's the pain. That's in my upper back. And he talked about how once he lost the weight, that pain was gone. And I can say the same thing. That pain that I had from getting big is gone now. And yeah, that really put things into perspective for me, as far as like getting yeah.
Yeah, when you go through phases of like gaining and losing a lot of weight, because some people have experienced that, some people haven't, but especially for like in my situation, I have shows, we have to make weight, cut weight. Weight classes are like they're a big deal.
Yeah, same in
And
fighting. Yeah.
it's going to change a lot on like who you're fighting against or who you're competing against.
Mhm.
Like someone at 275 versus 220 is a big difference. Like every pound matters. And there's so many things of like the stretch marks that happen and like the skin. I mean, you get loose skin, you can get the water retention, the fluid buildup. It's like if people just lost weight, and there's a lot of customers that we have come in and we want to help them, but we can't do everything. Like you have to make the choice at the end of the day to like, you got to walk more, you got to eat better. Like it's not going to be easy. And there's a lot of things that nowadays can help you out. Like GLP-1s help people, like, your hormone optimization. Like there's so many things you can do, but you got to do it. We can't always run your cryos. We can't always do your IV drips. We can't always give you a shot. Like you got to, as much as we like to hold your hand, we can't. And I'm sure you know that for anyone that you're like, oh, dang, I got to fix this now, don't I?
100%, man. I feel that even at like gyms that when people come in and they want they want to do things once or twice a week and think that they're going to see this life change, and I'm like, yo, listen, let me let you in on a little secret. This is something you have to do every day, and that's not an upsell.
Mm-hmm.
That's advice.
Yeah.
If you come to me and you tell me that you want to lose 100 pounds, and I can tell you how to do that because I've done it twice in my life, I'm going to tell you exactly how you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give me 50% of that, guess what's not going to happen? You ain't losing 100 pounds. You might lose 20 of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, I'm glad you said walk more. Man, I just want to kick myself in the head every day. I wish, and I did a lot of walking, in the army. I served in the infantry. I did
Mhm.
tons of rucking and all that stuff. And I was super lean when I came out of basic training, super lean. I was like 150 something pounds,
Mhm.
really lean. Um, and did a lot of walking. And I read this book recently. You're familiar with Gary Brecka?
Yep.
Yep. And he talked about, I saw a TikTok of where he's doing this short on I think he was doing a TED talk, and he's talking about the Ted Ferriss book, The 4 Hour Body,
Yep.
and about how the key there is when you wake up, slam 30 grams of protein, and in the first 30 minutes of and within 30 minutes of doing that, get a 30-minute cardio workout where your heart rate is under 136 beats per minute.
Mhm.
It is so hard for me as a combat sports athlete to do a half hour worth of anything when my heart rate isn't over 136 beats per minute,
Mhm.
because I'm thinking about the fight. I'm thinking about how can I be lottie dottie everybody, like walking on the treadmill or
Mhm.
walking around the block while my opponent is potentially like ripping into a heavy bag or getting hard rounds in. But from a weight loss perspective, he talks about the science behind it being that in that 25 to 30 minutes where your heart rate, where you're moving, but your heart rate is under 136 beats, um, that your body is targeting stored fat. And the moment you get over 136 beats per minute, now it's targeting like your glucose, and it's taking from a much more efficient way for your body to have energy to move.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there thinking about all the times in my life that I've been busting my ass on a treadmill for 5 to 6 miles, sweating buckets next to like someone who's just kind of reading a book, walking, and they've got this like lean little figure. And I'm like, how? Just how?
Yeah.
and here I am, like, I wish I would have known that advice 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And now I try to do a lot more. Hey, I'm just gonna walk. And it's hard, like I'll walk in an incline, or but remembering that, hey, this isn't about breathing heavy. This is
Mhm.
about just movement.
Mhm.
And I try in recent times, because again, people are afraid to be tired.
Mhm.
That drives people away from the gym all the time. And so now when I'm talking to people about fitness, I'm like, yo, simplify it.
Mhm.
You shouldn't be afraid of working out. You just need to move. Grab some like dumbbells and move them
Mhm.
for a half hour, 40 minutes max. Just move for a concentrated 30 to 40 minutes.
Mhm.
If it means you can do it every day, you don't have to work out to exhaustion if you're not an athlete, just move.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The So one of the biggest misconceptions right now is that a lot of people think like metabolism plays a big role in weight loss. Things that actually matter with weight gain, why are some people just morbidly obese? You're like, come on, dude. Because in my mind, I'm like, I could never get like that.
Mm.
Here's my issue. I don't have the appetite for it. I just can't eat that much. Even when I bulk, I hate eating. Two, I live a fairly active lifestyle. Like I walk around a lot, do a lot of things, and I work out all the time. It's my hunger, and also your total body weight. Like someone at 300 pounds of muscle, 300 pounds of fat, you're going to burn about the same calories. I hate to break the people. Do a VO2 max test is going to be pretty similar. So total body weight's biggest thing, your hunger levels, and how active you are. Like that's what matters to people. So I'm like, guys, you're not like Terry isn't genetically blessed unless I'll make a caveat. The only way that your metabolism's crazy is if your T3 is like 6, like off your rocker.
Mm.
You know what T3 does?
I don't know what I was about to ask you. What does that
So
mean?
T3 is one of your hormones your thyroid produces. So you have
Okay.
T4, T3. T4 is the original guy, and it breaks down in T3. T4 is inactive. T3 is active. So T4 is like doesn't really do anything in the body. Can't combine. But when that gets broken down, it breaks into T3. T3 is the thing that regulates all metabolic function. Like that is the hormone that everything gets based off of. When that's low, people have to take T3 supplementation because you have crazy weight gain, similar to having like really low testosterone. These are all like hormones that have to
Mm.
play with each other. So that's the only reason where people like I'm like, if they've done everything and it's still not clicking, I'm like, have you had blood work done? And then I can look at their panels and be like, oh, you basically don't exist. Like if you have like low testosterone, bad thyroid function, bad lipid panels, not insulin sensitive, you're not good. Like losing weight's going to be very hard. Like you're just going to be walking uphill and it's like vertical.
Mm.
Um, but when you have those optimized hormones, which I'm not sure how much like how's drug testing with your federation?
Well, in sport karate and kickboxing, there's not much drug testing. But in like I mean, they want to make sure you're not on like uh like
Crazy
cocaine and
gear.
stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not
Or
doing like
like I
hard
mean,
drugs.
but most outside of if you're not being tested by like USADA,
Mhm.
most places can like tell if most places don't really care if you
Mm.
are on
Feel like
like
TRT.
yeah, like for TRT for example, um I don't think I don't think that's tested for. I think there are a lot of guys who are on
Okay,
gear. Yeah.
and a lot of guys don't talk about being on TRT because they want to say they're natural, whatever. And I'm like, okay, dude, you're not natural.
Yeah, you've got veins coming out of your neck right now.
You're definitely on something.
Yeah. And that's okay.
It's fine. And
Yeah.
TRT's not like because people always go back and like, is TRT steroids? I'm like, okay, technically, yes, technically. But is it doing any of the things that you connotate with steroids? No. Like it's hormone function, it's the way you feel about yourself, your mental health. Like you're just bringing your levels back to someone who's naturally
Sure.
optimized. And
You do it for the same reason you take like a B12 gummy to like get your levels where they need to be.
yeah,
That's my understanding at least.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
you're not running at an optimal rate, and your body's just not functioning the best. Because you at 18 probably felt really good, or if you never had
God.
great function, it's like
Yeah.
because you had great. Like I would have loved to have gotten blood work when I was like just shooting through puberty, and my voice sounded like this out of nowhere, and I'm like, there was probably something cooking in me. I probably had natural testosterone off the rocker.
Yeah.
And just as you age and do lifestyle habits and you work night shift and all these things, like
Yeah.
it's just not your body's like, dude, I can't focus on this much more. I'm just trying to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Like we can't pump up the hormones we used to pump.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing of like, I wish Restore does hormones. I hope it's my life. All my wishes would be granted if they did that. All of my wishes.
Yeah.
But until then, I talk to all the customers because, like I said, I don't want to. You own a business too. We don't want to sell something to somebody that doesn't work because then it's going to bite us in the butt.
Sure.
We want to sell something that's going to be like we believe it because it works for us. So that's why. So I always tell people, I'm like, if you're trying to lose a lot of weight, certain ways, I'm like, this one thing isn't gonna do it. Like that's not your secret shot. Is it gonna help if you do these other things? Yeah, but you
Mhm.
can't just do that thing.
Right.
Same
Yeah.
same with your gym. It's like I love that you're here. Trust me. You can't just do this though.
Nope. It kills me when people come in and, like I said, they clearly need help, and I want to help them.
Mm-hmm.
But they, they look at what the cheapest option is,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's all the different plays you can run from a sales perspective about, oh well, if you stopped eating out 5 days a week,
If you stop drinking,
if you stop drinking,
which is super expensive.
oh yeah, this would be an actually relatively affordable, thing for you to do. And if you did it every day, but even if when you're looking for the cheapest way, that that means you're not going to
Mhm.
you're not actually locked in. If you wanted, if this was your number one priority to get your body right,
Mhm.
if you were locked in, you'd find a way to make it happen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like in relationships. It's like if they wanted to, they would.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. If you wanted to, you would.
100%. Like, yeah. Yeah, I want to throw some relationship out to, the fellas out there struggling. If she's not busy all the time, okay?
Yeah,
I promise you, she's not busy all the time. She's
it's always funny when
occupied
people are
elsewhere.
like, "Oh, I'm busy."
No, you're not.
I'm like, you don't. Especially like when you're a business owner and
Hmm.
a fighter and all your things and a
Yeah.
dad, you're like, this is busy.
And you
I'm
can
juggling-
still find time to do things that you want to do.
Yes.
Let's like, for example, this is real life scenario. We're sitting here right now on a
Mhm.
Saturday, right? When did you approach me about this podcast? Monday?
Yeah. Like last week.
Monday? Do I have plenty? Listen, brother. I woke up today. I took my daughter to the park. We went on a hike. We played in the park for 2 hours. We went home, let the dog out, just taught a private lesson. After that, showered at the gym, came here. After this, I promised her I'd take her for some ice cream. We're going to get some ice cream.
Nice.
Then we're going to the Future of Fighting fights tonight,
Mhm.
and I'll hang out with her. And then after that, we're going to play some laser tag. Busy, busy day. On top of that, like last night, I drive 2.5 hours from Louisville to Williamsburg to pick her up.
Mhm.
One way. So drove out there, stopped, did my workout, drove her back. She plays with the other kids there at the gym.
Mhm.
But it's like, these are priorities. So I'm like, oh, that's 5 hours worth of driving on a Friday night. I can skip my BJJ workout.
Mhm.
Nope. Priorities, and excuse me. And it's just, I could easily, I even thought about it. I'm like, oh, well, next week I'm going to be out of town. So I'm like, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's funny how when you want to do something, you just, yeah, let's make it happen.
Yep.
All the time, you ask them, oh, can you do that? Oh, they give you the runaround about this, that, and the other. But if you were to say something that piqued their interest, all of a sudden it would be, they would burn all bridges to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just how humans, it's no one likes to think they're an opportunist because it has a bad connotation. I'm like, "Yeah, we're all opportunists.
All of us.
All of us. That's
Yeah.
and you just don't want to admit it. Like if you see an opportunity and you think it fits best for you, it's like the like human psychology of like we're all like really selfish at the end of the day.
Mm.
But it's just like, can you make the selfish part of you selfless in a way? Like just make it about yourself, but in a good way and help other people. Like you mentioned, you probably read quite a few books. Tim Ferriss.
I listen to a lot of books.
I mean, same.
Yeah.
I say I read. I count it as reading. It's same different
thing.
font.
Same thing. Yeah.
I'm too dyslexic to read, honestly. When I was in
Straight
class,
up,
I used to
man.
have to read, and I would hate it.
Straight up, man.
I would mess up words, and I'd be like, I swear I'm not stupid. Like I'm super smart,
Yeah.
but this just doesn't click in my brain
Sure.
right now. I was like telling people with that. I'm like, dude, you can be successful and be dumb as hell. Like my dad owns his own company, dyslexic as hell. He can't exact same way.
Yeah.
It's just it's built in.
Different kinds of smart.
There's different kinds of smart.
Mhm.
Exactly. And the ADHD kicked in. I forgot we were talking.
No,
about.
you're right. You were talking about how you we were on something. We talked reading.
Reading.
You read a lot?
Oh, the books. Okay.
The books, yeah.
What books have you read that you found like super like you just learned a lot from?
Oh. That's really funny. I want to like pull up my audiobook to like see right now which ones. Well, I'd say one that's really really good is and of course I'm going to forget the title to it. I actually met the author of it at a sales conference a couple years ago. Organize Tomorrow Today. And that's a really, and why am I forgetting the name of the guy? But anyways, that book really really, just I mean it's talks about like what the title is, Organize Tomorrow Today, and just a better way to be more like organized about, because I'm so bad at, have been historically bad at organizing things, and I still can slack on it. But that was like a really good read. I've listened to, I'm a big sales guy. So I listened to like 7 or 8 of Jeb Blount's books on like his sales gravy stuff, Inked and just all sorts of books on from him. I listen to a lot of books on like military history. I listen to all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
No, because I love Tim Ferriss. I've read 4 Hour Work Week. That was like my first idea.
I haven't done that one.
4 Hour Work Week's great.
Okay.
It's a good idea to like. Everyone likes to work their entire life. You're gonna die regardless. It's a way to be like, okay, I'm gonna die. Let's figure out how to be like the most effective version of myself possible without like putting all this time into stuff and leveraging other people's time. Like, how can I make this make sense to where like, can I live on 50,000 a year but be really happy, or do I need the 120 and then do all my other dumb stuff? Like, kind of the mixer out there. Also, I love Stephen Bartlett. He does the Diary of a CEO podcast.
Okay.
He came out with a book that was really good. The same. I love sales too. I haven't read many sales books. Mine are always like human psychology books, but psychology and sales are like the same thing with different font.
Exactly.
It's just learning people and why they function, what they're doing.
Everything is sales.
Everything. Even relationships are sales. You got to sell yourself
when
to someone
people
else.
tell me I can't do sales, I'm like, you are literally doing sales right now.
You're telling me that you can't do it.
You were trying to sell me that you can't do it. Yeah, 110%. Yes. It's like people just don't, oh, I just can't be pushy. Well, you're in luck because sales isn't about pushing. Sales,
It's discovery.
That's it, man. I'm just like, okay, copy. You're telling me this, that, and the other. Well, this is how we can help you. Is this something that you're interested in?
Yeah.
Are you interested? It's like the old, like, get into like just sales stuff. It's like you ever heard of like, you ever seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross?
I don't think I have yet.
There's a really, really great bit. I'll send it to you through text,
Sweet.
but everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have heard ABC, right? Always be closing. Have you heard AIDA? Attention, interest, decision, action, right? So he's doing this long bit where he starts off, the bit starts off, he walks in this room, this high-end sales guy walks in this room of these car salesmen, and he goes, you know, put that coffee down. And this guy's got coffee, and he's like, do you think I'm effing with you? I am not effing with you. Like, coffee's for closers only. And then he goes into this bit and he flips this, this chalkboard around, and he's like, A, B, C, always be closing. This is where this comes from. And he's like, AIDA, attention, do I have your attention? Interest, are you interested? Decision, have you made your decision? And action, are we going to take action on this? Just getting into things like that, you're just gathering your sticks for the fire, and then it's like, do you want this or not? I can't force you to sign here.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you understand what it is that you're locking into, or, what it is that you're committing to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, hey, if you don't want it, guess what? I don't need to deal with your cancel next month either.
Yeah, literally.
I don't need to deal with that. As a matter of fact, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do it. I don't like the way it makes my numbers month on month fluctuate. I don't like feeling like my product doesn't work when I know it does if you lock into it. It's like, just sales it's not about pushing people into buying anything that they didn't want. You went, and I've sold things all across, from furniture to jewelry to diesel, to, diesel engines to, gym memberships, all Cutco knives when I was real young, all sorts of things. And it's all the same thing. Hey, you're the one who sat on the couch first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just letting you know, how do you feel to look in your house?
Mm-hmm.
This is what it costs if that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ruben, we're out of time today.
Oh, wow.
So we're already almost at an hour. So
oh my goodness, that felt really quick. That was good.
They always go really fast.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on. You also Title Kickboxing. Just want to
so I run the Title Boxing Club in Louisville, and then I teach and train out of Area 502 Mixed Martial Arts.
Sweet. And how do people contact you? What's the best way?
Instagram's great, at _marvelous_Vargas, through Instagram. Title Boxing Club, Hurstbourne. If you're interested in coming to the gym, Area 502 Mixed Martial Arts, if you want to learn kickboxing from the best kickboxer in Louisville. And yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Well, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, man.